Today I'm going to show you the Picot Bind Off that I'm working on my petals shawl. This is unblocked, but the Picot edge will leave little bump outs along the edge that you can block out to little points. Now the final row of this shawl has a yarn over knit two together. So there's a little web along the edge. And we're going to work the picots so that they align with the solid bars that are traveling toward the edge. I'm working this in purl because the bind off occurs on the wrong side, but you could do this in knit as well. I'm going to purl across. I'm going to do a purl bind off across the yarn over that's at the edge, and then a purl bind off into the solid bar stitch. Then I'm going to take that stitch and put the left needle back through it and wrap my yarn around and make a knit stitch. I'm going to do that 4 times. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4. Now with the right hand needle, I'm going to pick up the last bind off stitch that I did and the back of the purl stitch. So I'm basically going to be working a stitch into the base, back into the previous bind off. So I'm going to purl that and bind off. And that keeps the little picot nub firmly aligned, firmly in place. Now I'm going to bind off over the yarn over stitch. I'm going to bind off 2. And now I'm going to bind off into the next solid stitch. So that's my second bind off. Now I'm going to repeat the picot again. I'm going to knit 4 into the same stitch to make a little chain. It's just a tiny little short chain. And with that needle, now I have the chain, I'm going to work back into the bind off at the base of the chain right here. And I'm going to pick up the back of this stitch just to anchor it a little bit better. Like this. I put the left needle through those 2, purl, and then bind off. And all of that, those last couple of stitches just anchor the picot. Now I'm going to bind off 2, 1 over the yarn over and 1 over the solid stitch. And now I'm going to repeat the picot again. I'll do it one more time. I'm going to purl into the same stitch 4 times. Then I'm going to pick up the bind off, the last bind off that I did, plus the back of the stitch below. Insert my left needle. I have a little lump of yarn there. Purl through that double strand and bind off. And that anchors the picot down. And then I just repeat until I'm at the end. So I'm going to bind off 2, work my picot loop, work back into the stitch below, and then bind off 2, work another picot loop, anchor it to the stitch below till I get to the end of the row. And this makes a nice stretchy blocking edge for your hem of your shawl. The Picot Bind Off.